Hello, hello, and welcome everybody to my channel. My name is Sabrina Rising. I'm a spiritual teacher and a psychic medium, and I'm here today with my dear friend Jonathan. You all know and love him, Jonathan Aslay. He has his own YouTube channel about dating, mating, and relationships. And today we're going to talk about how ego can get in the way of intuition. And this is such a juicy topic. I love this topic so much because we're going to have some real life examples from Jonathan's life. Of course, we're going to talk about the evolution of our lives and careers and so on, and how intuition plays a role in that, simply to inspire you and to sort of activate some part of your subconscious mind and may not realize that how you might be sabotaging yourself or limiting the possibilities in your life by not truly listening to your intuition. Okay. So intuition, can be a confusing thing. It can be very elusive. It can be hard to develop it and to lean into it and to learn how to trust it and to heed the voice of your intuition that overrides the voice of your logical mind, which is essentially your fear-based conditioning. Okay. So as human beings, we learn fear, in early childhood. We learn how to keep ourselves safe. Essentially, we learn how to protect ourselves from being hurt and from making choices that are relatively cautious. And wherever there's caution, there are limitations to peace and fulfillment and the joy that we can experience. And so we're learning to live our lives guided by our intuition. And when we do that, we bring in so much more fulfillment and so much more joy and so much more of what we deeply, deeply desire. But it takes a little bit of capacity to be uncomfortable, to take risks, and to sometimes defy logic and go beyond what feels familiar. And we're going to talk to Jonathan about that here in a moment. So tell me, Jonathan. Hi, Amy. Nice to see you. Good. Thank you for joining us live. Those of you that are joining us live, we will take questions at the end of our chat. So please put them in the chat. If you want to ask questions to either myself or Jonathan, we encourage you to participate. And we just want to make this a fun conversation for everybody. So Jonathan, talk to me about your recent experience. I mean, this is sort of unfolding organically, right? So talk to me about your recent experience around how your ego almost got in the way of you really finding this great love that you're experiencing.
Yeah. It's interesting. So, I was on your channel. I would say it was about 3.5 months ago, shortly after I had a first date with somebody. And I was sharing the story and the follow-up phone calls that we had after the first date. And it was basically, I said, wow, I met this really amazing person. We had this wonderful time, but I had no chemistry for them. Yeah. And as I was leaning and sharing that with you, I thought, that was my intuition going, well, you got really close, but it's not the one. And during that video, you're like, well, you should give her another chance, or you should give the relation, the opportunity another chance. And I'm like, no, I'm going to sit with my intuition saying that this isn't the right person. And lo and behold, literally the next night after I had my chat with you, she and I met up, and all of a sudden the sparks started to fly. So it was kind of interesting to both listen to your prediction and also recognize how my ego was getting in the way.
Yeah.
But the more I lean into, go ahead.
Hold on a second. You thought you were listening to your intuition, right?
Yeah.
So at first, when you got when you were like, oh, I don't know if I'm feeling this, or I don't know if this is right for me, and so on, you thought you were listening to your soul nudges saying, I don't know if this is the one, right?
Yeah.
And so looking back, I know, of course, I acknowledge that I sort of cut you off in the middle of what you were sharing, but I think it's important for the audience to hear, in hindsight, how can you now distinguish that wasn't your intuition talking? How does it feel different in your body?
Well, it's interesting. So now I've got 100 days since that conversation. I'm fully in a committed relationship. There's genuine care and teamwork and love between the two of us. So as I reflect back to what was really going on that was blocking that connection that we had, let me reframe that. I said the word blocking. What I was realizing was I wasn't experiencing my old pattern of anxious attachment, being attracted to an avoidant attachment. That has been my patterning. So I didn't feel these butterflies and anxiety, and I didn't feel that uncertainty that I oftentimes feel in the beginning that makes me chase
Yeah.
someone or invest in someone or pursue someone. I was
Yeah.
experiencing calm. And what happened was, and now coming back to the ego and the intuition, I thought my intuition was saying she wasn't the one. But what was really happening, though, surprisingly, my intuition was also saying, keep talking to this person. Like
Yeah.
it like literally it was screaming like every day. I for about 10 days from the first time we met till the second time we met, I kept feeling this strong urge to talk to this person. And we would have 2, 3, 4, 5 hour conversations over the course of a 10-day period. I had this strong pull. Now, the difference was I didn't see it as my intuition. All I knew was I was being pulled. It's
Good.
easy to look back now and say, "Oh, that was my intuition saying stay in it." But simply what I believe was happening, and I'd love your guidance on this, or we can
Yes, I can't
certainly
wait to chime
talk
in.
about this a little bit, is that I just kept feeling a pull to keep talking to her. And
Yeah.
pretty much mirrors what you predicted was just keep going and see what happens. And
Yeah.
where the ego gets tripped up, at least the way I observe it now, the ego gets in the way by making conditions, by saying it's supposed to be a certain way.
Right.
And so the divine part of myself kept pushing me towards her. My ego was the one that was going to screw everything up.
Yeah. No, I love what you're sharing because, this is so important. So you felt pulled. But the pull that you felt wasn't driven by kind of anxiety, butterflies, like that like so we can assert based on
Yeah,
what you've said that
yeah,
your ego is your conditioned response to a perceived threat, right?
yeah,
So that's the ego. The ego is fear-based and it says, this is it. Like this is the thing. This is the thing that here's my opportunity to be in a relationship with someone who's emotionally aloof and unavailable and I'm going to have to prove myself. I'm going to have to earn her love and it's going to be one of those
yeah,
things and here I go for a wild ride. And so this is what we do, right? When we're anxious and we meet people that are opposite, where we meet people that are avoidant. And
yeah,
this puts us on this trajectory of learning this very painful lesson yet again of
yeah,
how I need to learn how to love myself first and foremost before I enter into a relationship or expect to enter into a relationship with somebody who can meet me there. Right.
yeah,
So this is so important what you're saying. And I love the distinction because, I remember you saying that there were no sparks, like there wasn't a lot of chemistry, right, in the beginning, or you weren't being drawn in that way. And I think it's very interesting that chemistry, as we relate to it, attraction, as we relate to it, can often feel like it's fear-based, right?
mm,
Like maybe chemistry is what's driving like the world, and that's part of your ego, that's part of your fear-based consciousness, that sense of urgency or that sense of like, I need to have this. Does that make
yeah.
sense? So what we
Oh,
mistake as chemistry can sometimes be, the wounded self that's being activated and saying, oh, here's my opportunity to work this out so I can go deeper into love with myself.
so it's interesting because now that I've had time to reflect, and given that I'm a dating or relationship coach on a
Yeah.
professional level, puts me kind of in a unique position here as well.
Sure.
What was interesting was that the chemistry pieces, oftentimes for me in the past, has been driven by lust or limerence.
Yeah.
Lust is that desire to be physically intimate. In
Mhm.
limerence, for those that are unfamiliar with, it's kind of extreme infatuation. And
Yeah.
that wasn't driving the bus. But at the same time, what was interesting was I had a strong desire to develop a friendship with this person. I mean, we literally within a week of talking to one another, we both agreed we were becoming each other's best friends. I mean,
Yeah.
we
And
were like,
I would argue that friendship is the highest form of love.
and that's
It really
literally what
is.
I was about to say is that
Yeah.
honestly, and here's the thing. I've experienced a variety of I've gone on what feels like 1,000 first dates. It's not that, but it feels that way. I've had a couple significant relationships, a couple short-lived experiences. And in most of those cases, I didn't have a really deep friendship in any of those other experiences. And this might be the first time in my life that we started with the friendship. And the chemistry kept getting ignited by that. The more we got to be friends with one another, the more I became attracted, both on a physical level, on an intellectual level, on an
So
emotional level, on a
you
spiritual
see
level.
how the attraction that happens when the love is pure and conscious and rooted in friendship and integrity and self-love feels different than the attraction you might be experiencing when your wounded self is activated.
Yeah, and here I am. Part of the reason why I wanted to come on and talk about this is to piggyback on our previous conversation and give some
Yeah.
to give some update. But more importantly, I would say this has completely changed in some ways the way I'm coaching going forward, because now
Beautiful.
I've experienced it from a real embodiment of understanding how important friendship before the romance, friendship before the entertainment, friendship before the physical connection
Yeah.
actually builds deeper roots of trust in a relationship.
100%. And here's what I want to say too is I think the kind of friendship that is formed when
Yeah,
you've done a lot of inner work and you realize your value, your worth, what you want, what you need, and you start to really love and accept yourself as you are and
yeah,
see yourself as enough. The kind of friendships that are formed, whether it's same sex or opposite sex, doesn't matter,
yeah,
whether it's romantic or not, those kind of friendships that are formed on a much more solid foundation for pure love. We're talking about
yeah,
universal love to be
yeah,
experienced. And from that place of universal love, there can be a desire to for it to become physical. But
yeah,
doesn't always have to be that way. I think it's really important to remove that distinction that universal love is not it's not an exclusive emotion between two humans, right? It's something that we can adopt as an overall way of being. Of course, as a spiritual teacher, this is my take on it. This is
yeah,
my wish for me, for you, and for all beings everywhere, is to embody this deep experience or this deep, feeling of unconditional love within oneself as an overall way of being in the world. And then we can sort of see who we're attracted to that resonates for us at this level,
yeah,
because obviously I think the better part of humanity is not calibrating at that level, or is not operating at the level of deep unconditional love for self, right? And that creates all of these, it can create all these toxic relationships, right? If you look
yeah,
at, and we were talking about this because we were talking about your work, which I want to talk about in the role of intuition and developing your intuition and developing your career as well.
yeah,
If you look at relationships as a container, I love that word, or training ground
yeah,
for, learning and being and understanding all the ways in which we can love ourselves more deeply. It really becomes a beautiful pathway to personal liberation.
yeah,
Right? Like, I'm going to use my relationship to teach me how to love myself so deeply that I'm fully liberated in any lack or longing or unfulfillment within myself.
yeah.
And what a
Oh,
high standard for relationships that we're setting, right?
yeah,
And I'm going to keep using all these toxic, narcissistic, abusive situations to recognize how I might be treating myself in those ways, right?
yeah,
This relationship might be echoing my own inner dialogue,
yeah,
and learning to heal that within myself so that I can be free of this pain and now amplify the love that I am with meaningful relationships with like-minded people.
yeah. It's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about how throughout history, most relationships were more on a transactional level,
Yeah.
particularly from that perspective of, sadly for women, being more dependent upon men from a survival perspective. And I would say in the last 50 years, that's shifted dramatically. And thankfully so. Women are in a position where they don't need a man to support them. But more importantly, we've shifted in a way that we've adopted, almost, at least here in the United States, I can't speak for other parts of the world, is I need you to love me so I can feel good about myself. It's
Right.
almost
This is what we're
like,
trying to collapse, right? And through this work.
exactly. And
So let's
dating,
reframe that. What if we say, I need you to show me how I can love myself more? That's the point of
yeah, yeah,
relationship. in very layman's language, that's the point of relationship, is
Yeah.
I need you to show me how I can love myself more deeply, how I can give myself more credit, how I can give myself more grace, how I can see myself as more worthy, or,
Yeah.
experience myself as more attractive and more desirable, so I can conjure up these feelings within myself and feel
Yeah.
embodied in love, right?
Well, I look at every, like, particularly triggers, for example, whenever we feel agitated, we feel a sense of fear, we feel anxiety, we feel judgment or whatever, with these words that are, known as triggers these days.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm triggered nowadays, I look and I go, wow, I found a really interesting way to love myself in this moment. Like, I
Yeah.
look at it as an opportunity to say what inside me needs healing, what inside me is still feeling afraid, what inside me still feels small.
Yeah.
And so, coming back to this conversation about how the evolution of relationships, I believe, is shifted in the last 50 years,
Mhm.
is dating is our training ground
Yes.
for building the muscle. Like, I think of it like exercise, whether we like it or not. People want dating to be something like out of a Disney movie or a rom-com kind of thing, that it just magically happens. But what if dating is that grueling piece? And it doesn't have to be this way, but it might be perceived this way, is like your training ground to both love yourself and to prepare yourself with the relationship skills, particularly good communication skills, nonviolent communication skills,
Yeah.
emotional regulation. What if dating is the weightlifting that we do to get in shape for
Mhm.
that ideal relationship? And if, let's say, you've had one or two relationships that didn't work out, didn't go the distance for whatever reason, look at it as part of your training ground. And that's the way I look at the last 20 years of my life. It's been preparing me for what I believe right now. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself. It's only 100 days into the relationship, but
You're
it's
so
probably the healthiest relationship I've ever had. And I genuinely believe I'll go the
yes.
distance with this person.
Mhm. You're supposed to feel that way. Like, if you're doing the work and you're really embodying the lessons, as you say, in this training ground, you're really developing all these aspects of yourself, and you're becoming more self-aware, and you're taking more personal responsibility, and you're, putting all the right structures in place to ensure that you're creating a life that feels like it's in alignment with you.
Yeah.
You're supposed to feel like this is the best it's ever been, right?
Yeah.
That's the, and of course that will change as you evolve, right? There'll always be a next best and a next best and a next best, not necessarily a
Yeah.
next relationship, but a next level of depth or intimacy or personal satisfaction and fulfillment in this relationship as you continue to do the work. Again, we're talking about relationships as containers. So if dating is the training ground where you
Yeah.
develop the muscle, you develop the tools, the skills, the capacity even to be
Yeah.
in loving relationship, to commit to a loving relationship, then loving relationship is the temple. This is the dojo. This is where
Yeah.
we're now in it with our partners, learning how to radically and unconditionally love ourselves through the
Yeah.
mirror of relationship, through the mirror of triggers and criticisms and judgments and old unresolved childhood wounds that inevitably get activated. Of course, the deeper we fall in love, the deeper we allow ourselves to become vulnerable and open to the experience of love, the more triggers we experience, because
Yeah.
this is the nature of healing, right? The deeper you
Yeah.
go in the wound, the more it hurts, right? The more painful it can be, and the more liberating it is if you learn to stay in the fire of your uncomfortable emotions,
Yeah.
and again, bringing in the embodiment of unconditional love through awareness and inner work, and hopefully a willing counterpart, right? You have to have a willing counterpart who's willing to do this work with
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
which
So
is
I
so
want to get your
important.
take on something.
Of course.
Because so I've been thinking about our conversation, ego and intuition. And at the moment, I don't feel like I'm operating on intuition. I'm doing my best to operate from a place of trust.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, and also leaning into more knowing. So, like, particularly in my professional life, but like within my relationship, I feel like it's not my intuition per se, and I could be. That's why I want clarity on this.
Yes.
Um, but I feel like I'm just operating from a place of trust, a place of knowing. Like, everything about moving forward just feels right.
Yeah, good.
Is that intuition? I mean, like this is where sometimes these words get tripped up in my own head.
Okay,
And
so
so
I love to teach this in really practical ways. You know that oh, you're frozen, Jonathan. I don't know if you
you're
can
my
still see.
psychic
Oh,
guru.
okay, so
Okay.
you know, I teach this stuff, right? So I love to give very practical tools so, you know, human beings can understand what's the difference between fear and intuition. Like, what's the difference
Yeah.
between my logical mind? You know, I kind of gave it away, but my logical mind and my intuition. So your logical mind is based on the interpretation of things, based on the things that you've learned, right? Concepts
Yeah.
that you've learned, that you've taken in, that make logical sense. And I say that they're fear based, not because all logic is meant to keep us in fear, but logic is meant to keep us safe and
Yeah.
operating in ways that have evidence, past evidence that have been successful for other people. Okay. So the mind only has access to what's already happened.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know, like, you know, for example, you can go to a person and say, how did you build your business? And you can do all the same steps and not have the same results, right?
Yeah.
Because what's missing is intuition, energetics, alignment, passion, desire, all the whatever, all the formless, you know, the
Yeah.
feminine, we'll call it, right? And so, you know, it's different for everybody, but logic is based on what's already available and what our interpretation of the events are, or the situation is, based on our need to stay safe and to be successful. Okay. So
Okay.
success guarantees safety in the human 3D reality. If I'm
Okay.
successful, I'm safe, I've done a good job, I've created something good for myself. Okay. So intuition is doesn't make any sense. It's not something you can understand with your mind. You feel
Mm.
it with your whole body. You feel
Yeah.
it in your heart. It's kind of like there's a visceral response. You feel pulled towards something, but it's not an anxious pull. It's not, I have to do this. There's no urgency around it. It feels
Yeah.
calm, like a warm invitation, if you will. Does that make sense? And it's always present. So if you wake up today and you don't listen to your intuition, it'll be right there. The next day when you wake up, it'll be right there. The next day when you wake up, it's omnipresent. Does that make sense? Whereas panic comes and goes, right? Your conditioning comes and goes. Oh, I could do that. You know, we talk ourselves into it and then we talk ourselves out of it. We talk ourselves
Yeah.
into it. We talk ourselves out of it. And it's exhausting. Makes sense? So fear feels like contraction in the body, and
Yeah.
intuition feels like expansion in the body.
You
Fear
know, it's
feels
fascinating to me is I every once in a while I question the relationship because it's and not from I mean I'll say it's my ego talking. I mean I'm we're
yeah.
very well aware. But it's like things feel so in alignment. Like for a moment I'm like it's almost like I pinch myself. Is this really real? Because I'm used to misalignment. I'm used to longing. I'm so used to chasing and pursuing and all those things that the fact that we're so aligned, every once in a while I'm like, am I in the right relationship?
Yeah, yeah. This is normal, and this is such good news that all of
Yeah,
a sudden we're like, "Hey, there's a part of you." The wound itself is like, well, "This is too easy, right? This is
yeah,
too easy. Where are the problems? Where are the
yeah.
triggers? Where's my, you know, how come, you know?" And sometimes we unconsciously will create conflict just to experience connection. And this is
Mm,
very important to observe this for, especially
okay.
those of you that are in, you know, perfectly fine relationships, and you find yourself kind of like trying to create conflict, unconsciously creating conflict just so you can have deeper connection or so you can have proof that this is the right person for you. Okay. So, and I want you to observe that in your relationship because, as you said, you're only 100 days in. So notice if there's that tendency to be like, oh, okay, like I have a problem with this, or, you know what I mean? Like if there's a tendency to create that conflict just to experience deeper connection, just to have the proof that you made the right choice. Okay. So, and it's normal for people to sort of second guess, like, oh, is this too good to be true? Or how come there aren't any issues and that kind of
Yeah,
thing. It's very normal, especially if you've been used to volatile relationships or you've been used to
yeah,
these push-pull dynamics that happen in avoidant, attached, anxious attachment style relationships, as you described earlier.
yeah. So by the way, I want to say hi to Rhonda for being on. Good
And
to see you, Rhonda. And also Amy, of
Amy's
course.
here too.
So, it's kind of interesting because I'm aware that I'm aware that I don't want to create a unconscious or subconscious reason to sabotage it. Like I'm even aware of that. At the
Yeah.
same time, I'm just aware that every once, and by the way, it only happens for a nanosecond. And I'm just sometimes in awe of what it's like to be in relationship with someone that you feel very aligned with. You share the same values, you have the same vision, your lifestyles are compatible. And most importantly, that we have a strong sense of emotional maturity. I didn't get here overnight. This took me years and years of working on myself and doing inner child work and doing self-love work and being in the dating marketplace from a victor consciousness, not a victim consciousness.
I
And
love
and yet, because I sadly see, and again, because I'm a dating and relationship coach for those that are seeking a relationship, I recognize that it can be very challenging because it might seem like, you know, having the internet dating can be rather tenuous and frustrating. I get that piece.
yeah.
But I want to say to everybody, we live in a time where thank God we have online dating, because most of us live, I work from home. I live, I
Yeah.
barely go out. I'm rarely in an environment to be around single eligible people. I am like thankful that we have this medium to connect with people we wouldn't otherwise meet. I mean, thankfully you and I met at a business function,
Yeah.
but
It all
I
works together, though. It all works together. Like the
yeah,
internet facilitates these easy connections,
yeah.
and which makes it even more challenging for you to stay out of your ego and follow your intuition. Does that make sense? Like
Oh,
our
I was
society
about to,
has
yeah,
made it
exactly.
even more complicated for us to like really kind of really learn to trust ourselves, and the
Yeah,
more independent we become as a collective, as individuals, as part of a collective, the more sovereign we need to be as well. So
yes,
external
yes,
independence requires internal sovereignty, and the internal sovereignty is what we're talking about. We're talking about ego versus intuition, right? So
yeah,
again, and I want to say this, and I said this in my stories when I was talking about our live today. Like, there's no such thing as a wrong choice. Okay, so you can't
yeah,
make a mistake in life. You can end up in one choice will put you in a situation where you might learn harder lessons, more painful lessons, the same lessons that you learned before. You might be stuck in an unpleasant situation that hopefully you're using your self-awareness and your willingness to grow as an
yeah,
opportunity to learn, right, and expand and heal
yeah,
from whatever it is you're experiencing in that relationship. But when you're listening to your intuition and you're leaning in and trusting what feels correct in your body, and again, it feels, I want to give people practical tools, right? Because
yeah,
I love to be grounded in this work. So it feels expansive. Your cells are opening up. It feels like a calm yes, not an excited yes, an urgent yes. That's a red flag. Those
yeah,
butterflies are a red flag, right?
yeah,
Those like, oh my God, oh my God, that's a red flag. Like it's okay to have a little bit of nervousness only because it's an edge, or maybe you're expanding your capacity for love and so on. But if you find that you're obsessing or that you're ruminating over this person, or you're constantly checking your phone, or this type of energy, this is not intuition. Okay. This
yeah,
is not intuition. This is your ego, which is otherwise known as your identity, that's
yeah,
based in fear and early childhood conditioning, that's driving you towards something that's, hopefully that's probably going to be painful, and hopefully going to teach you something about yourself in terms of how you need to love yourself so that you can align with the love that you are. Okay. And we have
yeah.
to be willing to learn this lesson. We have to be willing, right?
Oh, I look at my past relationships and all my experiences as these beautiful, I learning ground. That's not the right verbiage, but like, well, to some degrees it was a playground. Other degrees it was like going to, master's degree
Yeah.
university. Um,
Uh-huh.
but it was these. I mean, I look at each past experience as I learned so many positive things about myself. I was able to heal within myself. There were so many good things. There were a lot of not so good things too.
Yeah.
Thankfully, those not good things weren't overtly toxic or overtly, there was really no abuse or anything like that, just some uncomfortable moments were the not so good things. And yet I look at my past experiences as that training ground from a place of absolute gratitude. I
Yeah.
can say that I looked at every one of my past experiences, whether they were short lived or they were more seasoned relationships, from an absolute place of gratitude.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because I approach
But
this
that's because
relate.
you're willing to not, you understand that holding on to resentment is toxic and it actually
Oh,
gets in the way of your intuition. It blocks us. So it's important for our audience to know that these low vibrational frequencies, these unresolved emotions, pain, resentment, grief, anger, loneliness, victim consciousness can get in the way of really listening to our intuition and heeding the voice of our higher self so that we can, create a life that we really love, make the choices that will allow us to create a life that we truly love.
well, at the same time, though, I want to acknowledge I've spent a lot of time doing that personal, inner child work to recognize the difference between my script and stories versus really getting a clarity on a level of self-awareness for myself to be able to parse out the difference between what ego's running the bus versus intuition.
Yeah.
And this didn't happen overnight, and I mean, I sometimes, Sabrina, feel like I'm scratching the ant's belly,
Yeah.
in this space of awareness, leaning into more trust, leaning into knowing.
Yeah.
And through this effort, both in my personal and my professional life. So, okay, given that
Hello.
I just mentioned professional, let me run this by you.
Okay, and then we
So
have a question from Amy's place.
I
Guys, if
saw
you
Amy's
have
question.
questions, put them in the comment section. We'd love to chat with you. Okay, so go on.
So on some level, okay, I'm a dating and relationship coach. And I want to say that on some level, my professional life and my personal life were very intertwined. And I think part of my professional life was to attract my life mate. In other words, to do all the inner child work so I can talk about it, as a
Yes.
dating and relationship coach, to go out on the dating marketplace so I can embody what other people are feeling. Well, now that I found this relationship, and I'm really happy,
Yeah.
I don't feel, for some reason, I feel like my professional life is stalled a little bit.
Interesting. Well, I mean, let's give that some context. Okay. So
Yeah.
I think that you are, as a facilitator, as a healer, as a coach, as someone who um you know feel called, okay, to
Yeah.
do something very meaningful with your life, do something
Yeah.
that you're really passionate about, and so on. Your job is to live and love out loud. That's your
Okay.
job. You're
Okay.
living and loving out loud, and you're taking us on this journey with you, right? And so I want you to recontextualize your relationship to your work. Your work is less about trying to achieve something or trying to accomplish something, or even perhaps looking for the love of your life in your
Yeah.
job, in
Yeah.
your work, in your coaching platform, but really looking at like, look, now you've got the success story to share and the
Yeah.
process that you've had to go through in order to be able to share it with other people and talk about how this works, right? Because you can give us relationship and dating advice all day long, but if you're not walking your talk, if you're not practicing these things and they're not working for you in your life, it's less effective. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? So now you're actually speaking from direct experience, and your intuition, if you're listening to it, of
Yeah.
course, I'm, always encouraging you to expand upon your self-expression and share in more depth, not in the way that you've been sharing, but in maybe in a different way. Now talking about dating and mating and relationships in a way that's actually impacting your life because you're in one. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Well, there's no doubt. I feel called to talk about what I'm experiencing. And I know, and here's where it gets a little tricky because I'm 100, well, actually 105 days in, I should clarify that. So 105 days in, and it's not like I can say, well, I'm 3 years into the relationship and be able to connect the dots. I'm kind of sharing as it goes along with my audience, with people. I feel like, instead of, posting one day, hey, I got engaged 2 years from now, I'm saying, okay, this is what's happening today. I was actually talking to my beloved earlier, and I was saying, well, God, and I said, God forbid, but I'm like, God forbid we have a fight and how we get through it. I said, I'll probably talk about that publicly. And she goes, yeah, I know you will.
Yeah. Your job is to live and love out loud, right? And
Yeah,
as soon as
exactly. It's like, do it in the moment.
100%. But the thing is, and this gives, I mean, it gives my work, my professional expression meaning too, to be able to use what I am going through, how I'm developing, what I'm growing into, what I'm experiencing, even in my own relationships or my own work and readings and so on, to share that with other people,
Yeah.
because no one here has this 100% figured out. We're all just kind of, sharing what's working and sharing the magic of what's in our personal lives. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I want to hear a little bit more about how intuition has played a role in your career and the steps that you've taken and so on, because I think it's so important for people, because ego can get in the way of our intuitive hits, not just in our love life, but in every aspect of our lives, right? And
Yeah.
it can really limit our ability to experience fulfillment and joy. And this is why we suffer, right? We suffer because we keep ourselves limited.
Let's take Amy's question though.
Amy's question. Okay. Amy says, hi, Amy. I just started talking to someone from grade school. Can you pick up anything? Jonathan, do you want to try this one?
Can I pick a, oh my gosh. Well,
Let's see your intuition.
Wait, okay. Well, I'm going to be candid with you because I can recognize my judgment just comes out,
Yeah.
only because, and to the extent that it's judgment, it's interesting as a coach, I've witnessed so many different experiences that I feel like, how the FBI have profilers for serial killers and serial this or that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I can spot things just because there's a predictive pattern. And maybe part of intuition is like you see a predictive pattern. First off, it's great that you're talking to someone who feels familiar. That is a wonderful place to be. Speaking to someone that you feel grounded. I know I reconnected a few years ago with someone from my high school. And even though we hadn't physically seen each other in 25, 30, maybe even 40 years, I can't even remember now, there was just something about that familiarity that you came from the same area. And that's always a fun place to be.
100%.
At the same time, I can't help but be the cautionary person, and that's just kind of the way I operate.
Here comes the ego, everybody. Here comes the ego.
Well, I'm going to just say it is that, from the place of, I'm a big proponent of human beings of vetting one another for emotional maturity if you're going to go down the romantic roller coaster ride. So ask those radically honest questions just to see if you're on the same page with one another, and then allow your intuition to do driving of the bus. Don't forget it's kind of like my dad used to say, you can put your faith in Allah, but don't forget to tie up your camel. And again, I'm operating in a 3D world. Okay. I don't fully operate.
And I love that we're having this conversation because, it's like, I don't want to give the ego a bad rap. I don't want to say that, hey, it's always going to hurt you. That's not true. It's just the role that it plays is to keep you safe. And when we're constantly heeding the ego's voice, the identity's voice, we are going to experience limited circumstances, limited success, limited fulfillment, limited inner peace, right? So we have to allow intuition to infuse our way of operating and our decision making. Amy, I'm going to give you my.
Can I ask one thing though?
Yes.
Oftentimes, what we do though is we think it's our intuition when it's really our ego talking. But we think it's our intuition, especially when you get overly excited and you feel like, oh my God, there's this great connection. That's where we think it's intuition, 100%. But I think it's oftentimes ego.
And that's what we've been talking about, right? Like what fear feels like, what the ego feels like. It's contractive. It's like, there's high highs and low lows when it comes to the ego, when it comes to the logical mind, but intuition is not like that. Intuition feels like love. It feels relaxed, and it feels all knowing and all present, and like a warm invitation, and it's always there for you. Okay. Intuition feels like that. So if you're feeling the highs and the lows and the highs and the lows, that's not your intuition talking. Okay. That's your conditioning that's attracting something that feels chaotic because your inner life is chaotic. Okay. So I want to speak a little more directly to Amy's question. I'm assuming you want
What's your psychic? What does the oracle say?
By the way, we're doing Oracle Hour at 5 p.m. tonight. I will be back with you at 5 p.m. tonight to specifically do psychic reading. So if you have a question like that, then come back and join me at 5. So I just want to say that I really love this relationship. I love that you've reconnected with this person. A lot of what Jonathon said is true, but there's a special connection between the two of you. He feels like a very gentle person. He feels like a, there's a real wholesome connection between the two of you that you could sort of pick up where you left off. And it feels like, again, I'm getting that feeling like a warm invitation,
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of spaciousness here. There's no pressure for you to be something, to create something or to, or to, yeah, you can just be yourself. And I think you need that, like Amy, like I really feel like you just need to be in this friendship, foundation of friendship with this person where you feel like you can just build from there and to take it slow. Okay. That's the other thing I'm hearing too, is for you is to take it slow. She said he's always been a gentle giant and he knows me. Yeah. Okay. So I really feel that. I really feel that for you. So again, there's a safety to this. Like I feel relaxed in my nervous system, just imagining the two of you together, and I don't know who's fair haired, if it's you or him, like kind of dirty blonde, but it's just, yeah, it feels really good. It feels innocent. And it feels like there's a like Jonathon said earlier, like familiarity, not just because you know each other from elementary school, but because there is a soul connection here. And there is an agreement to meet up later in life. And this is what's happening. And this is why it's unfolding in this way. So I want to give you my blessing, but I also want to tell you to build the foundation of friendship first and foremost. That's going to be the most important thing. And to sort of get to know each other in that way without any pressure on any outcomes. She says, both of us are dirty blonde. Okay. Just, yeah, you're welcome. So I love this guy. I love this guy and I love this connection. I really enjoy the synergy between the two of you. It feels very innocent, very playful. Like, I actually see the two of you sitting on the back of a flatbed truck, just kind of like in the field under the moonlight, just talking about what it was like, that's the kind of vision I get, Of course, I'm a sucker for romantic movies, but this is the kind of vision for the two of you, just kind of reminiscing about childhood or what life used to be like and everything that you've been through. This is a really non-judgmental man. So you can actually tell him anything and he will have the capacity to hear you. Okay. She said, we're taking it slow. Thank you. Okay. Beautiful, Amy. I'm so happy. Let's give Amy our blessing and send her off with well wishes. She said, we just made a flatbed truck date night for tonight. Yay!
The oracle knows. The oracle knows.
Oracle knows, you guys. The oracle knows this is the place for answers and for visions and for downloads. So I love this for you, and you're going to have such a beautiful time tonight. Literally, just enjoy the vibes, enjoy the innocence of it, enjoy the tenderness of it. Don't rush. Okay, just take it really slow and enjoy each other because you've both been through so much. Okay, so it feels like it's your time now to experience this type of connection with this person.
By the way, can I ask Amy, do me a favor, come back after the date tomorrow and post how it went so I can come back to this video because I want to hear what happens.
I want to hear what happened. You're not going to get Oracle hour tonight because you're going to be busy getting ready for your date, but come back and let us know. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Beautiful. Okay. So let's switch gears a little bit. Okay. So let's talk about intuition. I know we love to talk about love and love is all there is. And of course we do everything with love, including our jobs and our roles as coaches and guides and facilitators. Let's talk about how your intuition sort of nudged you and said, hey, it's time for you to create a business and guide people around dating, meeting, and relationships. What was that process like for you? Of course, I can share from my own experience as well, but I would love to hear your take on how you got here.
It's interesting because at the time I became a dating relationship coach, I'd ended my career as a insurance broker. I was, trying on a few different hats. I'd been an insurance broker for 20 years. I was trying on a few different hats, even doing real estate and that sort of thing, but nothing was really really exciting me. But I felt drawn to talk about relationships. And roughly at that time, Facebook had started to become popular, and I would just blog about dating and relationships just from a place of curiosity. And I would create these amazing conversations on my Facebook page, and I just leaned into it. And at the same time, I was reading books about relationships. I was reading about personal development, self-help, spirituality, even doing therapy at that time in my life. And I just felt called. It was almost more like a calling. Like I was talking earlier, how I just felt pushed. I felt nudged. Like I wasn't seeking it, but I just kept getting pushed towards it. And I found,
The
huh?
push. Talk to us about that push. What does that push feel like? It feels, give me some emotional terms so we can give this practical
Okay.
steps to the
So
audience.
I was in a space of not having purpose in my life at that time. I was in an identity crisis. But the push, just I got excited every day talking about it. So excitement was one push. Curiosity, I mean, like all of a sudden my brain would fire. Like, what could I learn today? What could I learn today? What could I? So curiosity played a role. Excitement played a role. Enthusiasm played a role. Everything, the nudges felt, but it didn't feel like anxiety. It didn't feel overwhelming. It was more like, when I say push, I don't mean push like this. It was just like this nice nudge along
This
the
is
way.
what
It
I'm
was very
talking about.
calm.
Placid, warm invitation,
Yeah.
calm, gentle knowingness, right? Like, oh, this feels okay. And this feels okay. And this feels okay. Look at my dear friend Barbara's here today. Hi. And she says,
Yeah.
now there's a professional path jump.
Yeah.
That's huge, right? Like that's a big jump you took.
Yeah.
Jolie, that's interesting. I just got my broker's license. No, I think it's important, like what you're sharing, because, meaningful work comes from this place of heart-centered, vision, heart-centered enthusiasm, heart-centered, like this feeling of a calling. I'm being pushed towards something, right?
Yeah.
So would you say what was your ego doing this whole time as you were contemplating the development of this part of your life?
So, I mean, I was in fear from a survival perspective. That I remember that deeply. I was in fear. I was also wrestling with my old identity, and felt like I was in limbo. I was lost. At
Yeah.
the same time, I mean, I was just drawn to wanting to become a dating and relationship coach. I mean, I remember in 2009, 2010, when I told my friends who I'd known for 20 or 30 years, they all thought I was crazy. I was nuts. Like, what are you doing? This isn't going to amount to anything. And interestingly enough, I'm now considered, 15 years later, I'm considered a very top end dating and relationship coach, just by the size of my YouTube channel and that sort of thing. So
Yeah,
I
of course.
certainly worked very hard to get to where I'm at. Um, but the nudge was, it didn't come, it just came from a place of, I keep coming back to curiosity.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of the fact, I was just curious about how this all works, so to speak, relationship.
Yeah.
And because I was curious, I always asked these questions, that through the curiosity, it just kept propelling me. There's something about being constantly curious, wanting to learn, wanting to grow, wanting to push past my negative patterns, my limiting beliefs. And again, it wasn't this push like this. It was just a gentle nudge along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And look, if you had listened to your ego, you wouldn't be here today. You'd still be selling insurance. You know what I mean? Like
No,
it's
I probably would be in a ditch. I'd
yeah,
be
or
totally with
yeah,
you.
what I'm saying is this is what our limiting beliefs do. They
Yeah.
and I think the older we get, the more constrained our beliefs become. Okay. The
Yeah.
more constrained we feel, like the ego's kind of just sort of closes in on us, and makes
Yeah.
life less and less and less, or the possibility of fulfillment less and less available. If you had listened to your ego, you wouldn't be where you are today. You wouldn't have followed your soul nudge. You wouldn't have developed your business. You wouldn't have grown to the status that you have, on YouTube and in your business as a mating, dating, and relationship coach. And look at how many people you've helped along the way.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what I love about when we learn to listen to our intuition is it makes what is the unseen, what was previously not available to us.
So, but I want to piggyback on something. First off, I want to correct. When I said ditch, I meant that metaphorically, not
Yes.
literally. I just
Yes.
meant I would have been stuck. And
Yeah.
the other driving force, as I think about this now, is love was kind of my guiding light. I
That's
don't know how to
beautiful.
properly describe this. You probably could put better words to it. But there was just something about wanting to be of service, wanting to be, like kind of, when I learn something, share it, pay it forward. Like I've become in the last 15 years of my life doing my best to embody love, both starting with self and not
Mhm.
from a selfish point of view, but that self-love is self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-reliance, self-discipline, that place of love for self, but and at the same time loving everyone else too. So one of my mantras is I love myself and everyone else is a mantra I say every single day.
Beautiful.
Is putting the oxygen mask on yourself first, and then you can put it
100%.
to the people around you. So
Yeah.
love has also been a big part of it, and love and intuition feel like they're entwined with one another, like
Yes, indeed.
there's something about
Yes.
operating from a place of love feels like it's my intuition and not ego.
Yeah, 100%. I don't see a distinction between intuition and love. I know we talk about them interchangeably, and for me,
Yeah,
they're synonyms of each other. Like
yeah,
intuition is my soul self speaking to me to sort of, guide me towards experiencing more of myself. And the essence of who I am is love. And so
yeah,
when you look at it from that perspective, when you're listening to your intuition, it's not about getting it right. It's not
yeah,
about, oh, I made the right choice. My intuition guided me to the correct place. This is incorrect thinking. This is you sort of mixing concepts between the way the logical mind works, which the logical mind is designed to make correct choices. It's designed to win. It's designed to keep
yeah,
you safe, as we mentioned earlier. But intuition is actually just inviting you into experiencing more love, more of the essence of yourself, not love that lives outside of you, but actually the love that you're meant to embody. And that's what this human experience is for, is really to embody love. And so,
yeah,
and I want to tie this back to what you said earlier, because you said, now that I found my beloved, my relationship, and my cup, your cup is full, right? So you feel
yeah,
less driven towards, perhaps making things happen in your business, or, growing things in your business and so on. I would venture to say that part of that lull, it could be because your cup is full, that there is
yeah,
less of a need to fill it. There's less of a feeling of like, I got to fill this up in some other way. Right.
yeah,
And now the reframe is to pour some of that love into your business. Right.
yeah,
The frame is to pour some of this full cup that you have into how you express yourself,
yeah,
on this platform, so that people can enjoy, what's working for you. Right.
yeah.
And that's the point of this work, is we listen to our intuition so we can make love more available to ourselves
Mm.
and to other people in a way that serves our highest and best good. Of course, your intuitive guidance is going to give you steps that might look different for you, that will look different for me, depending on your conditioning, depending on what you're healing, depending on your intention and your pathway. It's going to look different for everybody. But for everybody watching, if you are making decisions that are driven by fear, and this is
Yeah,
so important, I talk about this almost every Oracle hour. If I'm deciding something, and ask yourself, what is driving my choice right now? What's
yeah,
driving this choice? Is it fear? Is it lack? Because lack is also ego, right? Like you had a lack of chemistry, lack of sparks,
yeah,
perhaps, or lack of the old familiar feelings that you
yeah,
normally feel, right, when you were really into somebody.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
What's driving my choice? Is it lack, longing, fear, contractive energy, or is it expansive energy? Is it deep trust and deep love for myself and everyone else?
Well,
Right.
okay, I know we're coming to the close of this, but I have a question for you.
Yes.
So I'm kind of in this love bubble right now, and I kind of like the bubble.
Of
So
course. Don't
okay,
get too
so
attached to the bubble. Don't get
uh,
too don't get attached.
no, I know. Well, that's kind of why that's my question. How long is this bubble, and when am I going to start to I'm asking my psychic oracle here.
You're so
How much longer am I going to be in the bubble? And when is things going to start shifting where I can pour that into my business? Because I kind of like the bubble right now.
No, I hear you. I think your look, and this is advice. I can't, the how long is a very specific question, and it really
Yeah.
depends on your awareness and your willingness to just enjoy where you are.
Yeah.
Right? Notice how the mind, the ego wants to jump ahead and go, how long is this going to last? What's going to
Yeah.
happen? What am
Yeah.
I going to do when this feeling's not there anymore? What do I put in place? How do I keep myself safe? It's constant. It's
Okay.
constant, 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 constant. Okay. So what I want you to just do is relax and enjoy just for today. Just for
Okay.
today, I'm happily in love. And this is
Okay.
amazing. And then I'm going to sit with myself, because hopefully you're creating some balance in your relationship, right? So there's
Yeah.
space in your togetherness, and you're not consumed with each other, and there's like room for you to grow and work and be, you took an hour today to come and be on my show, which I really appreciate, for you to get your own needs met, right? And so as you continue to look at it from a place of like, how am I getting my needs met? Those needs will change every day. For today, you have a need to be perhaps in closer proximity with your beloved than you might have 6 months from now or a year from now. But that doesn't mean the relationship will be any less fulfilling. It just will have feel more settled. It'll be in a different phase of maturity. The love
Okay.
matures with time, right? Just like you have matured with time, so will your love mature with time. And so it won't feel as new and as, all sort of, I want to say all encompassing, but it'll feel more grounded. Does
Okay.
that make sense? And so I
Sure.
look forward to the seasons of that love, just
Okay.
like we look forward to the different stages of life. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I'm looking forward to this stage with you. I'm really enjoying this stage, and I'm holding space for the next stage because I know it's going to be different. So awareness is your friend, as you
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
self-awareness is your friend. And I also, like, I mean, of course, if you're asking the oracle, I would say that this relationship has all of the stuff. It has all of the potential to
Yeah.
be a long-term loving relationship. And I say that because I can see that there's a lot of space for both of you to just kind of explore your own path and be your own person. There is space in your togetherness, so again, you're both willing to make that choice as long as you continue to choose each other every day, even when it doesn't feel like you're in a bubble anymore. As long as
Okay.
you're continuously are willing to choose each other every day and do the work to bring yourselves back to love. This is the context I have with my husband. It's like I'm always, whenever there's conflict in our relationship, of course, we've been together, longer than you and your beloved, and so whenever there's a conflict, or even just that feeling where the ego says, I want, like, I need a break from this, or like, and I
Yeah.
don't want, it's a moment of that. It's like, this is my invitation to go more in love.
By the way, you said husband. It's the first time
Yes.
I got to hear that now on a video.
Oh, I say it all the
I know
time.
you've only been married. Well, you've been married a few months now. So,
A few months.
uh,
It's still new.
yeah,
It's still
yeah,
new. It's
I
it's new
know.
for me to say
It's
too. It's
cute.
fun.
No, I was just saying that was cute.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's again though. Let's look at the trigger as a gift.
Yeah.
Never, you know, reject the gift of a trigger, because the trigger is always an opportunity to go deeper into love with oneself, right? And
Yeah.
so your relationship might feel less of a pleasant bubble that there is right now, but it's always, again, bringing you deeper into love if you choose to look at it that way. Most people look at triggers in relationships and they go, here's my red flags, here's my way out,
Yeah.
this is my exit, this is how I want to leave, right? This is my chance to leave. And so, it's very important that people understand that wherever you go, there you are. And so if you found a relationship to work out your self love invitations in, then it's good to take advantage of that, to the level of that it's appropriate and accessible. Make
Yeah.
sense?
By the way,
Yeah.
Rhonda thought it was cute too.
Yeah.
Well,
Rhonda loves Bo, and Bo loves Rhonda.
Bo is great. Bo is great.
Yes, yes. Awesome. Okay. Any nuggets of wisdom or anything that, you want to share with us in terms of your intuition and how you're developing that and how you're letting that lead your relationship right now, how you're really making that your North Star, especially based on all the readings we've had together? How is intuition taking center stage in your life?
Well, as I said earlier, and by the way, thanks for letting me be on your channel. This is so much fun. We we now go back and forth with each other. So I
I
really
love it.
appreciate
This is,
that.
yeah.
And I appreciate all the love and support you've added to my life. You've been a dear friend and a great confidant and both a wise oracle and a great counselor at the same time.
Thank you.
To the extent that I'm really allowing myself to sit in this space, not the bubble of love per se, but the space of maybe feeling a bit of unknowing what I want to talk about next from a professional standpoint. I'm in this space, and at the same time, I know that something is being birthed from me in this space as I'm going through maybe this cocoon, maybe this little bit of bubble. At the same time, I just know my intuition says that something is being birthed right now. So just allow yourself to be
Yeah.
in this space. And that doesn't feel what's nice about that doesn't feel constrictive. It feels very open. I feel like this instead of like this by saying that. And that's where I'm at right now. And who knows, in the next couple months I'll be coming back on your channel going, oh my God, let me tell you what's going on. So
Yeah, amazing. I can't wait to hear. I can't wait to hear. And I'm sure we all can't wait to hear. So
yeah.
thank you for sharing your journey with us. And thank you for allowing us to use the example of your life and relationship to teach some very important lessons about intuition and the role of intuition in our lives, in our love lives, and in our everyday life, in every area of our life.
Yeah.
I really appreciate how candid and vulnerable you make yourself and accessible you make yourself for all of us, especially for the women that are listening. This is so empowering. And the men too. Men need to hear this, how important it is to be vulnerable and to learn to listen, to override your logical mind and really listen to your intuition. So thank you so much for being here, Jonathon. I love you so much. I'm going to reach out and give you a virtual hug. It's good to have you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Amy, is this a question you have here? I've used your nighttime meditation has helped me calm quicker to bed. Oh, beautiful. You're welcome, Amy. I'm glad you're using the meditations. I will see you all tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific. Join me right back here we're going to talk about post-eclipse energies, how to integrate the lessons that you've learned. And of course, I'm going to do live readings. So come and bring all your questions and I'll see you back here at 5 p.m. Pacific. I love you all so much. Bye, everybody. Bye.